I began in the late 70s and early 80s in marching band in Westchester University. One of the band members copied out parts to the arrangements that we played, and he used an italic pen and ink. The look of it was just something that attracted me to it. I wanted to know how he did it, and I wanted to learn how to do that. I took over after he graduated, doing the parts for the marching band, as well as doing various projects for the jazz ensemble that I also played in. That got me started. From school, I then went on to a small publishing company in West Trenton, New Jersey, called Musicians Publications, and that was run by a composer-arranger by the name of Bill Holcomb. Bill, in his publishing company, had a small engraving shop. That's where I first learned about the engraving world. I didn't necessarily do any of that work, but I learned about the process, about music typewriters. Some of the details were still added to the music using pen and ink, such as anything on an angle that the music typewriters could not do. All of that took me through the transition as software became available to do music engraving. I understood the process a little bit more than just anyone doing copy work. I began on a PC with a program called Score. This was the first serious engraving program that was on the market, but still very difficult to operate. So that didn't last long. In the late 80s, I first heard about this new program called Finale. It was originally introduced to me by my friend Ed Schweibacher. He brought me the first literature announcing this new software package for the Mac. That was my first inkling that I needed to get on board with the computer notation. I bought Finale, I bought a Mac SE with a little 9-inch screen, and started my career as a computer engraver using Finale. As that progressed, I picked up more and more work that I could do with computers. And eventually it led to the point where I was on the computer more than pen and ink, and eventually replaced it completely. The more that people started to adopt computer software elsewhere in the industry, I then encountered other options, mostly Sibelius, as another option, and realized that at that point, I should probably be proficient in all forms of computer notation software, because I didn't want to lose a gig over not knowing how to work something. So I got Sibelius, I got Notion. In 2016, there was a new entrant into the market, Dorico. And thanks to Dan Spreadbury, who had come over from Sibelius, I knew that that was in the works. And when I attended the NAMM show, he was there just privately introducing it to people. And even though it wasn't quite ready then, I knew that in a few versions, it would be a serious contender. Dorico is definitely the most advanced and most complete notation package on the market currently. It addresses all sides of what you would need to produce quality notation, both just score and parts as a pure engraving project, but also giving you more and more tools on the realization side to create excellent professional quality mock-ups to the level that you would ordinarily have to go to a DAW to produce. Dorico has a lot of interesting features to it that are improvements on things that other software has had, but it does it in its own way. And once you key into how it does it, it's speeding things up immensely. For example, if you're doing a rhythm section, it's formatting a part. For example, if you enter chord symbols on a piano part, staves are formatted that the guitar and the bass will automatically have those same chord symbols automatically entered. You don't have to enter them as a separate process. You don't have to copy and paste them as a separate process. That is a great time saving if you're doing any kind of work that involves rhythm section. Its notation tools follow the set rules of music engraving, so it will not let you do anything that is incorrect from a notational standpoint. Things like not showing the center of a 4/4 measure. It will always clearly delineate that and not let you do anything that violates that particular rule. It will also allow you to shift music horizontally in a way that no other notation software has done. So if you enter a note a little early or a little late because you forgot a rest or whatever, you can just select the note and slide it to the left or slide it to the right. That would ordinarily be, you just have to delete and start over, but this gives you the ability to do that very easily. The playback side is just amazing in what you can do playback-wise, and the whole flows feature where you can now do a multi-movement work in one file. You can do a book of songs in one file. You can do an entire opera musical theater production in one file and be able to have the titles and copyrights and parts formatted as you would need to create a book of parts for a musical. This would previously just have to be done as individual files, and you would have to do page offsets for the book to get the correct page numbers. It's just a wealth of features like that people have wished for since the beginning of notation software, and now many of them are just there in Dorico. While Dorico is an excellent notation program, it doesn't hurt to be at least aware of all of what's on the marketplace, because when you collaborate with someone, there's always the chance that they use something other than what you use. Thankfully, there are file types now, specifically music XML, that will work between different notation software, though there is some issue still with having things to clean up when you've traded files that way. But nonetheless, it is an option to collaborate with different people using different software. MIDI files also work, though they provide less information. Ultimately, it depends on what part of the industry you settle into and how important it is to be fluent in different software. For me, working with many different composers and arrangers, and also being a librarian for an orchestra, it helps to be proficient in any and all software that's available, just because you never know when you may have to pick up on a project and get it to completion, get it to fruition, and be able to take care of printing out parts, editing scores, and all that at any point after the composer or arranger is finished with it. So you always want to be able to finish something, even though it may not necessarily be the software that you prefer to work in, but knowing what's out there is a leg up in getting jobs and being the best you can be. One of the questions that you may have when looking at notation software is, how does that fit in the workplace with a DAW software like Cubase, like Logic? And the answer is, it depends on how you are most comfortable with working and what your compositional process is. If you are very proficient at the keyboard and using synthesizers, then chances are you may be more comfortable working first in a purely MIDI format as available in a DAW versus going to notation and Dorico. People use them in conjunction all the time, Cubase or Logic being the software for playing in the software, and then turning it over to Dorico to convert those performances into something that an orchestra can play. As always, people would like to feel like they could buy one software that is all-encompassing, but usually what happens in those cases is software kind of comes from one area and moves into another. So there's one part of the equation they do very well, and another part of the equation they kind of just get by with. It's not a problem to use two different softwares in creating your music, to use both a DAW and notation. But if you are more comfortable as a keyboard player in a MIDI world, it may be easier for you to start in something like Cubase, enter your score there, and then bring it over to Dorico to create something that will go out to an orchestra. For right now, those two work hand in hand very much in the music production process. Going forward, yes, Dorico has a great interface for manipulating MIDI controller data that is part of the whole thing that DAWs normally excel at. And Cubase also, and Logic as well, have a notation part of the program that you can do some notation, but it's nowhere near as elegant as Dorico's notation interface. Ultimately, it's where you as a musician feel the most comfortable, whether in MIDI playing it in or whether in Dorico in entering as notation, working towards the same goal of creating an large ensemble or small ensemble demo of your work. Will a program ever come along that is the perfect fusion of both? Perhaps. So stay tuned. As music notation software goes into the future, it will be shaped by how people use it and what tools they feel that they need for their work is going forward. So it's always an interesting dialogue between user and software company to take in what the users are saying, hey, I'd really like this, hey, this would be great, and how they, at the software company, take it and add it to the software moving forward. Since Dorico now has most of the Finale user base, a lot of people are missing different features from Finale, so I can see some of them maybe kind of being incorporated into that, so that's kind of the near term of it. Further out, it will be interesting to see how the computer itself develops as we move towards things like more tablet usage. Dorico does have a version that runs on the iPad, and there are certain things about its interface that are a little different from the desktop version. As people want to migrate maybe more in that direction, you may see more robust features that involve a touchscreen type interface. A lot of people are enamored with the idea of using like the Apple Pencil and an iPad the way you would a pencil and paper. Things like that are possible. It will just be morphing into the direction that users want to take it. That's always the thing with any product. You put it out based on your own designs and then see what user feedback is like and then go, okay, in order to get the market, we need to have these features, and that will be what guides the development.